Christmas is supposed to be a time of warmth, family, lights, joy. But across the United States, Christmas is also when some of the darkest stories come alive. Stories of strangers knocking after midnight, voices singing carols where no one lives, and figures dressed as Santa that were never human. Tonight, you'll hear true Christmas horror stories and American holiday legends that most people have never heard, but those who experienced them will never forget. So dim the lights, lock your doors, and whatever you do, don't answer the knock. Welcome to Mystery and Myth Storytime. Our first story takes us to a quiet Illinois suburb where Christmas Eve became a night of fear. It started subtly. Children began reporting something strange. Every year, just after midnight on Christmas Eve, they would hear footsteps on the roof. Parents dismissed it, of course. It was just their overactive imaginations. It was the wind. Raccoons, maybe. The excuses were easy to find. Until the knocking started. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, always at the front door. One night, a young girl, braver than most, crept to her living room window. Peeking through the curtains, she saw him, a man in a Santa suit. He was standing perfectly still on her front porch, bathed in the soft glow of the Christmas lights, and he was smiling, a wide, fixed smile. But his eyes, she said, his eyes never blinked. They just stared, empty and dull. Over the years, police were called multiple times by different families in the neighborhood. They'd investigate, but the reports were always the same. There were never any footprints in the snow, even when it was freshly fallen. No fingerprints on the door, nothing. The knocking, the visitations, they only stopped after families made a pact to stop opening the door. They learned to ignore the sound, to pretend they didn't hear it. Some locals say he still comes every Christmas Eve, just to stand on the porch and smile, watching to see who's brave enough or foolish enough to answer. Next, we travel to upstate New York, to a place where the past refuses to stay silent. Here stands an abandoned church, St. Nicholas Church. It's been derelict for years. A hollowed-out shell of what it once was. Its heavy bronze bells were removed and sold for scrap decades ago. The belfry is empty, yet every Christmas Eve, at exactly midnight, locals living nearby hear the unmistakable sound of church bells ringing. Clear as day, they toll through the cold night air. It became such a persistent legend that paranormal investigators and local authorities tried to debunk it. They set up security cameras inside the old belfry. The footage was chilling. Right at midnight, the thick, frayed bell ropes began to swing on their own, as if pulled by invisible hands. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. One investigator, a hardened skeptic, decided to stay overnight in the church, armed with high-sensitivity audio equipment. He wanted to prove it was just the wind or a structural anomaly. At 12 a.m., the bells began to ring, just as the stories claimed. But moments later, his recorders picked up something else, faint whispers seeming to come from all around him. The voices were weak, but the words were clear. "Remember us." The investigator packed his gear and left before dawn. He quit the case that same morning and refuses to speak about what he heard. The bells of St. Nicholas Church still ring every Christmas Eve, a lonely, ghostly summons from a forgotten congregation. Our third story takes us back in time to the 1930s in rural Pennsylvania. During the Great Depression, communities held tightly to their traditions, and Christmas caroling was a cherished one. One cold Christmas Eve, a small group of carolers, known for their beautiful harmonies, decided to take a shortcut through the dense woods to reach the next village. It was a path they knew, or so they thought. Villagers in their homes listened as the familiar songs drifted through the trees. For hours they could hear the faint sound of Silent Night and O Holy Night. But they noticed the voices were slowly fading, not as if they were getting farther away on the path, but as if they were moving deeper and deeper into the forest itself. Then the singing stopped altogether. The carolers were never found. Search parties scoured the woods for days, but it was as if they had vanished from the face of the earth. Now, nearly a century later, the legend lives on. Berry Christmas Eve, when the night is still and cold. Locals report hearing the same faint carols coming from that same dark stretch of trees. The melody is described as sorrowful, an echo of a joy long lost. Modern search teams and law enforcement agencies have a strict, unwritten rule. They will not enter those woods after dark on Christmas Eve. They know the song is a lure, a ghostly invitation to join the choir that never came home. From the woods of Pennsylvania, we go to a seemingly sunny family home in California. This story is more recent, a chilling discovery found in a moment of holiday nostalgia. A family was gathered together, looking through old Christmas photos, reminiscing about years past. As they flipped through an album from the 1990s, they came across a picture they didn't understand. It showed their living room, decorated for Christmas, with the tree lit up beautifully. But sitting on the floor by the tree was a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, smiling at the camera. None of them recognized him. He wasn't a relative, a friend's child, or a neighbor. He was a complete stranger in their family photos. Confused and a little unsettled, they asked some of the older neighbors about the house's history. The story they uncovered sent a shiver down their spines. Decades earlier, long before they moved in, a young boy had tragically died in that very house on Christmas Day, shaken. The family went to bed, planning to look at the photo again in the morning light. But when they returned to the album the next day, the photograph was gone. The slot in the album was empty. It was as if the boy had only appeared to make sure he was unforgotten on his favorite holiday, before disappearing once more. Finally, we confront a legend that many believe belongs only to the old world. Krampus, the horned, cloven-hoofed companion of St. Nicholas, said to punish naughty children in European folklore, or so we thought. In recent years, disturbing reports have emerged from across the American Midwest, particularly in states known for their brutal winters and heavy snowstorms. People caught out in the blizzard-like conditions have reported terrifying encounters. Pay described hearing the sound of chains dragging through the deep snow behind them. A heavy, labored breathing that isn't their own, just over their shoulder. Some have caught a glimpse of a tall, dark figure covered in shaggy fur, with long, curved horns silhouetted against the whiteout. Witnesses are adamant about one thing. Whatever it is not a costume. It's too large, too fast, and the fear it inspires is too real. It doesn't interact, it doesn't attack. It just watches from the periphery of the storm. A silent, ancient reminder that not all holiday spirits are there to bring gifts. Christmas isn't always peaceful, and some stories don't end when the lights turn off. If you want more true horror stories, urban legends, and dark folklore from America and beyond, subscribe to Mystery and Myth Storytime and turn on notifications, because the next story might be closer than you think. Good night.